Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I'm sharing it on my Facebook. Okay, so what is there to talk about today? Well, let's just ramble. It is quite amazing to see the constant barrage of the daily news, the daily mainstream media turning on Obama. And that's kind of a big deal because what it implies is that the power structure is moving away from Obama, and they are, in fact, moving towards. Uh, they are moving towards somebody else. So who is the somebody else? Now, somebody did put out a theory that there's technically another president that's operating right now, and that Obama's being left in because let me tell you, the power, some aspects of the power structure, specifically the ones that had control of HAARP, that created the hurricane that hit the northeast part of the United States, were really pulling for Mitt Romney to win. And so when Obama won, that was totally something that was completely unexpected. There was definitely some civil there was definitely some civil strife going on within the power structure as to who was going to be the president. And I can't tell if I think that the very core insiders made Obama made Obama president, with the just outside the inside insiders were trying to switch over to Mitt Romney because they're not as clued in to the total, to the total big picture. So what do I think is going on? I don't know, because the simple fact of the matter is that anybody who's anybody could drop the bomb and say 9/11 was a conspiracy. If you get any celebrity, any big name politician or figure saying 9/11 is a conspiracy, you got something totally legit. The question is, why doesn't Putin say that? The last time that we had anybody of any, like, you can see where things are going when you play off of that nerve point of 9/11 being a conspiracy, because you can see what the power structure is concerned about, because they're concerned about 9/11 not being a conspiracy. And it's from that that you can gather that Ron Paul, that whole thing with Ron Paul, was a legitimate movement, because there were just rumors that Ron Paul is a 9/11 conspiracy theorist. And working off of that, you were able to manipulate the concerns of the power structure. Now, obviously, one of the biggest stories that are out right now is Snowden, and how Snowden is. Well, you actually just had McCain saying that Snowden probably got tortured by China and Russia, when in reality, just let me point this out. And you know what? I really can't tell if these psychological operations occurring now are for our benefit or not, because it's obvious that they're taking down Obama, but can you really trust the residual of what's going to happen when that happens? Because, to put it simply, Barack Obama was always going to take the fall. Barack Obama was always going to be set up, even if he didn't know it. And just from the mainstream media, willing to put on celebrities questioning the eligibility of Barack Obama was really enough to help suggest to people that they were always going to set up Barack Obama for the fall. And the reason that they would do this is that the 9/11 conspiracy theory was so like, I actually think that 9/11 failed, that 9/11 was meant to be blamed on the Palestinians, that events were supposed to occur with the Mossad truck bomb incident, which did not occur, that the original patsy, or the original people to be blamed, were Palestinians. And it didn't happen, and so they fell back onto their asset, Osama bin Laden. And Osama bin Laden, suddenly now the patsy, was basically like, no, I think this was a shadow government with Zionist ambitions. And then Bush took advantage of this whole thing to bring it into the Iraq War. But I'm not even so sure that, I think that was controlled even, that they wanted to sort of peg the 9/11 conspiracy on Bush. And it looks like they might be heading towards this, there's a Saudi conspiracy, because now the Saudi prince is saying that, or he's trying to raise hell about Iran's support of Assad, and it's very, very odd. They're actually making Iran out to be like a good guy now with Obama. And that's really awesome to see that, basically, because that is more of an indication that the power structure has been forced to basically abandon some of their assets. But you know, if you've got Obama aligning with the Saudis, and the Saudis are allied against the Iranians because of the difference of like Islamic. And that's really important because because they love Israel. So I don't understand how Israel comes out on top when you're taking down the Saudis and Obama. So they have a lot of work to do, basically, when it comes to the psychological operation, but I can't really tell if that's what's going on. Because let me go ahead and tell you, the Michael Hastings event, the Michael Hastings, you know, car that ends up blowing up and everything, that somebody top commented something on a Christopher Green video that I felt like could have been the case, which is that this dude was waxed, then he was put in his car, and then they remote control drove his car into a tree, or they blew it up, and they did it purposely in the middle of the night so that there wouldn't be a lot of witnesses around, basically. So he was already dead in his car, and then they remote control drove it and killed him. And I can see that being the case, like in a legitimate story. But the fact that it's done, and it's done in such a big picture way, because they don't kill people. What they do is they go over there, and then they abduct your child, or they give you some sort of an ultimatum, or they give you some, you know, like they basically compromise you. You don't get killed. What happens is you get on the payroll, basically. You know, payroll. It's not necessarily even a payroll. It's kind of like an offer you can't refuse kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you're a zombie. Like everyone you're seeing on TV, like I don't even know what this is. But everyone that you see on TV is basically exactly that, some kind of a zombie for the conspirators, whether they're incentivized or they are threatened, basically, blackmailed. And so when Michael Hastings gets killed, it's part of that story. It's, you know, he might not even be dead in real life. But the thing is that it was clearly done in the open and done so suspiciously, and you have controlled opposition covering it. But I have to say that I did watch Superman, and I did watch World War Z, and Superman is clearly a pro-conspiracy theory movie. Superman was... Oh, I'm supposed to be checking the comments. Okay. No comments? Alright, guys. Anyone who's watching this, please leave comments. It gives me stuff to talk about.
Hello, hello, hello.
I'm stupid. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, Superman was definitely a pro-conspiracy theory message. Definitely the message in there was it like the thing was like the small towns were the settings for the movie, and et cetera, et cetera. You can watch the movie and kind of clearly see it. And not only that, but they drew a parallel between like Superman and Jesus, and they never really kind of did that before. Like Superman was kind of representative of Judaism, actually, but this time it was representative of Jesus. But then, what's really interesting is that Superman, like the bad guys, were kind of like Zionists, right? So Superman's coming from some foreign nation, and he's supposed to be the bridge between the two peoples, and you've got the other peoples coming in and being bad. And there's a running theme within movies as of recent, which is all about the worship of the homeland. Worship of the I am a victim of my home's destruction, and that's sort of a Judaism thing, because you have the Hobbit movie, which is all about how the hobbits lost their kingdom in the mountain, and they're all trying to go back. So you have a Judaism parallel there with Zionism, because that's essentially the argument with Zionism. But really, if you are observant of Judaism, you understand that Zionism is more than just Israel. It's the entire world that you're going to end up ruling. All right, where was I? So, The Hobbit, and then you've also got the Star Trek movies. I guarantee you one of the last movies you'll see with that Star Trek series is somehow Spock gets the chance to bring Vulcan back. So Vulcan is where Spock's people are from, and Vulcan gets destroyed in the first movie. And then suddenly, now the Vulcans are exiled, basically. And guarantee you there's like a Zionist thing in there, which is like, oh, the homeland has been destroyed, therefore all of these measures are now warranted, because the place you were living in is now destroyed. All right. So what's another subject? Snowden. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Hello, Brazil. It's good to see that I have people watching from over there. I was actually just talking to somebody who had a lot of experience. Like, she actually worked for CNN during the 90s in South America. And the thing is that she told me that in Argentina there's a very large group of Jews and Nazis from World War II. So Jews and Nazis from World War II in Argentina. So the thing is that I think that the people that were the actual intelligence community of World War II were Zionists, and they were actually stationed in South America, which is where they were pulling the strings from in order to do what they were doing with World War II. And then when the war ended, a lot of them began fleeing to South America, and I guess specifically to Argentina. And the thing is that we've got our Pope now, like the Catholics, the Pope is this Argentinian. So you have to wonder, like, because I would assume basically that whoever was pulling the strings in World War II has to be tippy top, you know. I watched World War Z being filmed in Glasgow. Yeah, not far from where I live. Oh, that's cool. I think World War Z was definitely. I mean, the thing is that World War Z was clearly a globalist agenda, and I thought, like when I was watching it, I was going to go watch it, and I was like, you know what? There's no way. But then I saw before the movie even started, I saw the director and the way the director was all like nerdy and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this is going to be absolutely full of propaganda. And then I went to watch it, and it was like, yeah, it was. And so, considering that people say Alex Jones covers for the Zionists, and the fact that he went ahead and attacked World War Z, despite the fact that it gave a very positive perception of Israel, it's very interesting. I don't know how that could happen. I think maybe just for credibility reasons he did that, or I really don't know. Um, so what else? Oh, there was a hearing in Aurora today, and the hearing in Aurora consisted of a threat of pushing the trial back. So the trial was supposed to be in February, and I suppose apparently that's like a very fast trial. And I think what they're worried about, the reason that they want to get it out of the way so fast, has to do with the fact that people could take, I don't know, I really don't. But there's two possible reasons why they would want it to go through really fast. They want to reach a conclusion. Well, that would be the obvious reason. They want to reach a conclusion, number one, because there's all of this shit going down on the big picture with Obama possibly being this conspirator. And then once Obama's a conspirator, then it's fucking open season, and you could look back at Aurora, and everyone would get fucking canned over there. So that's number one, like big picture encroaching upon the Aurora cover-up operation. Then you have number two, and number two is somebody like me or anybody else could take some form of legal action or some form of independent, investigative action in order to blow that shit open, because there's the question of, well, is Holmes even in Aurora? Is he in the cell that he's supposedly in? Could I get one of the cops or one of the witnesses to slip up and tell me the truth about what's going on there, and then it blows wide open as to what happened. And what they're doing is they're basically just sweeping it under the rug as fast as they can, because it's extremely volatile. I mean, you could really do some damage if you had the gusto to investigate or pierce into the Aurora situation. It's probably the most sensitive target right now. I mean, like if anyone wanted to, like if you're a foreign national or you're a domestic, person, and you really want to take down like a criminal part of the power structure, you could feasibly do some pretty good investigative work in Aurora, Colorado, and take it down. So that's why they want to sweep that sucker under the rug as fast as they can. The projecting how they will be able to do it, what they will be able to do, I don't know. It's kind of really, really shot. I mean, it's so shot that I think that a lot of what we're seeing on the news today is either supervening on that or the result of trying to smokescreen what's going on there, or even hold on, I'm trying to think of what I was talking about. Aurora. They won't mention Aurora, right? Like, you'll even go to conspiracy theory sites, and conspiracy theorists will just forget that Aurora happened. They'll talk about Sandy Hook, and they'll talk about the Boston bombing, and they'll talk about, they won't even mention Sikh Temple, and you have to raise some red flags with conspiracy theorists who won't talk about the Sikh temple shooting or the Aurora shooting. It's very odd. Just like they won't talk about the Mossad truck bomb incident, they won't talk about those two incidents right there. I mean, the thing with the Sikh temple shooting, I mean, that's great. That's like with a dude. I mean, how much more clear can you get than 4 people walked in and shot the place up, and then they run the official story like, no, it was just one. That was designed to look suspicious. But so I was looking at Edward Snowden's name, and his name is Snowden. And one must wonder whether or not maybe whoever's behind this took inspiration from the IPEC O2 video, which clearly has like a snow sort of thing, like how the bitter cold is a representative of how shitty things have gotten, before the sun comes along. And his name is Snowden. And then you have to wonder, like, are these good people behind this? And I don't know. And like they're talking about it right now. It's like day after day. This is the biggest scandal. They're focusing on the NSA wiretapping people. See if there's any more comments. I really look forward to your comments. A container ship with weapons headed for Syrian rebels somehow managed to crack in half. The weapons were reportedly from the United States. Is that mainstream news? Well, that's going to tie into the mass purchases of the DHS mass purchases of ammo. That really what we were doing was we were manufacturing weapons and getting them to Syrian rebels. And a container with a ship with weapons headed for Syrian rebels somehow managed to crack in half. The weapons were reportedly from the United States, paid for. Can you leave a comment, BW666D, and let me know if that's mainstream news, like they're talking about that on the mainstream news? Yeah, Alex Jones is he is totally compromised. It's very odd. I don't know what to say more than that about Jones. Snowden. So it looks like there's a struggle going on within the power structure, but too many people who are in on it. Like, I just put up a video last night about how the Daily Show host, who's not Jon Stewart, but the other John Oliver, I think his name is, basically he was interviewing Gyllenhaal, and see, Gyllenhaal was kind of like a difficult, it was just a little bit difficult to interview her, basically, if that makes any sense. And he was struggling for content, and he accidentally told he didn't mean to, but he told a pro-Obama joke. And everybody got off on it and were clapping and stuff. And you could see a massive sign of dissatisfaction in his face when he did that, because, and probably coinciding with what Jon Stewart was told, they have been given the directive, like, okay, we need to start transitioning the public to not like Obama. And it's a huge question of why. Why would they be doing that? Because they don't need. I mean, they can totally operate just fine with Obama in office. Instead, what they're doing is they seem to be wanting to cause people to think that there's corruption in office. And this really kind of ties into what they may have been forced to do. The reason being is that if they are in fact paying off all these people to keep these cover-ups going, then they're doing so with they're doing that with this stipulation that that Obama's behind it, and that ultimately, when they take down Obama, they're taking down these people who were behind this communist Islamic takeover kind of thing. And I think what we're seeing is that as much as they want to piggyback this idea of communist Islamic takeover, they're failing to do so, and instead what's happening is the entire conspiracy, the entire cabal is starting to kind of fall apart. And I can't tell if the players, the people that are doing it, understand that, and they know, and they are taking down the conspiracy as a whole. And I have to say that it must be just a matter of, you do have to wonder, because the Federal Reserve, which was chartered, I guess that's the right word, in 1913, is to be renewed after 100 years here in 2013. And then you have to wonder if the powers that be kind of put Obama in charge in order to really give us hell with the central banking system, so that, and while they're living it up basically, so that they can put an end to it in 2013. I will be very, very surprised if the charter gets renewed in 2013. If that, I'll be honest with you, it's going to have to happen at some point. And it is unclear whether or not what they're doing is they're building up a false flag or a world war, and they're going to coincide that with when that's supposed to be signed. And I suppose that would be in December, maybe. So they have plenty of time to do that. Holy moly. I can't tell what they're doing, but I'm pretty sure that they've had many years to think about it. And what do I project for the local? You turn on the mainstream news, and everybody knows about the scandals that are going on in the White House, and they are leaking them out fast. And like Snowden is now saying that he's got all this blowback. If the American government tests him, he's going to release all this information. And he's got it, hidden away. Let's go ahead and go through the. I don't want to just. What do you think? Okay. Oh, okay, so it's not in the mainstream news that happened. Well, that's really interesting, because that says. That says that. Well, I can't tell, because if it's not in the mainstream news, but it's like Breitbart.com and WMD or WND and Glenn Beck and Alex Jones are covering it, what I call the controlled opposition, if they're covering it, that's now mainstream news also. No offense to what you're saying, but when they cover it, it's kind of like, I do have a video on how I was like, what's going to be happening is the alternative media is about to become the mainstream media. So it does, if they're covering it, then it is kind of like mainstream media. Apple says, what do you think about the Woolwich attack that happened in London? Many believe it was staged like Sandy Hook or Aurora, Boston. However, what would be the motive? I can understand that false flags in the U.S. as they wish to go after the guns. That's right. So the Woolwich attack is very interesting, whereas Sandy Hook in Boston were designed to fail. Like Sandy Hook may have actually been a legitimate thing. Boston bombing was definitely designed to fail. Sandy Hook might have been a legitimate thing and then was re-engineered to be designed to fail. Aurora was not designed to fail. And I don't even think Aurora was sabotaged. I think Aurora was a result of them being so shitty that it looks like it was designed to fail, but they went all out on that cover-up. Okay, you can still see that now. But that's the last legit false flag that we've had was Aurora's false flag. And they were just really lazy with it. But Sandy Hook was designed to be a legit false flag. And it may have been planned like 2 years in advance because somebody tried to like say it was going to happen or something. And the thing is that I think it was re-engineered for failure, or it was sabotage. Like Sandy Hook could have been the result of sabotage. But you have to understand that these are coming after Benghazi, and Benghazi, I think, is a totally staged event. I do not think that Benghazi, people think that Benghazi was, people say this. This is like, see, the most conspiracy theory on what happened with Benghazi is such that it was totally staged for bringing down Obama. Like, when Benghazi happened, first off, when Aurora happened, I was like, oh my God, that just blew up in their faces. Now, Benghazi, then when Benghazi, then I speculated, I was like, it looks like they're going to, like, try to implode the conspiracy on Obama now. You know, they're going to make Obama look like he's, like, behind that, or he's behind some conspiracies, which they've always had ready. And then when Benghazi happened, I was like, look, there's evidence of that. Now, that was a totally staged event. You know, they ran the story about the YouTube video, and you know, hold on. Benghazi happened and looked staged. But you know what? The thing is that when it comes to the Woolwich attack, that was a legit false flag. That was them performing a false flag and then wanting it to be legit. Like Sandy Hook and Boston and Benghazi were designed to fail. Let's go back to Benghazi real quick. Benghazi was like the controlled opposition was saying Obama is... Anybody who talks about Obama being behind stuff is controlled opposition. Obama was trying to get reelected, so he stages a November surprise, or whatever that is, October-November surprise. And that's a way of getting reelected. So what he did was he got, he apparently has the Blind Sheikh in custody, which is some Islamic celebrity. And he's going to negotiate the release of the Blind Sheikh for Ambassador Stevens. So he had his Al-Qaeda people attack the consulate to abduct Stevens. And then he was going to negotiate the release, and it would have been like, oh, you're so amazing, and he would have won. And that's so dumb because they control the votes. So you already know that's controlled opposition right there. And so that was supposed to be like his October surprise or whatever. And then apparently it went to shit because some Marines responded when they saw what was happening, or they were given a stand down order and they didn't stand down. And they went and attacked it. You saw some of the controlled opposition shills sort of cracking down on where that video was from. And, hey buddy, stay with me. they were cracking down on where that video was from, and I was like, oh wow, that's really impressive. But the truth is that they were controlling that, and so it was like the inner core people, like the inner core Masons or whatever, were trying to make that look suspicious. And then you've got another level of conspiracy, which is like they attacked. It was a terrorist attack, and they were attacking it because it was funneling arms into the hands of the rebels, and there was torture going on in there, and that's the reason why they covered up what was happening there. You know, the long and short of it is they want us to think that there is a conspiracy, and then they want to control what results from us thinking that there's a conspiracy. They want to control who it is that's behind the conspiracy and how we're going to take down that conspiracy and what we're going to do as a result of that conspiracy. Okay, so I don't trust any of these people who aren't just running their mouths right now about the truth of things, because the people who are behind the conspiracies are nasty, satanic, pedophile, torturing people, guys. I mean, we will not be free until we are free of the threat of people who are threatened by these cabal members. So we have to go after the cabal. And so I'm always attacking the tippy top by always calling out the most, the reality, basically. So the Woolwich attack was, why did they do it? Because they're promoting it's like they wanted conspiracy theorists to think it was real. It's almost like I'm trying to think about this. They wanted the conspiracy theorists to think it was real because they debunked the conspiracy theorists through some alley-oop operations within the conspiracy theory crowd. And it was definitely a false flag. The purpose of it was obviously to promote libertarian ideas within the United Kingdom. But why would they do that? And the thing is that why would all that stuff about MI5 start coming out afterwards? Are they trying to make it look like libertarians are behind a conspiracy? God, it's so complex. How are they even handling all of this? But what is the directive? The directive is simply this. Cause the public to not like Obama so much so that they can impeach Obama. And the whole reason they're doing this is basically through a controlled implosion. And you have to be really careful because some really psychopathic people could be behind this. And then what will happen is, they'll justify a nuclear bomb going off somewhere because it'll be like, Snowden gave away this and that, and now we're at risk for nuclear bombs. Or they'll be like, how much longer? 15 minutes. Can you guys hear me? I can't tell. It is a riddle because I don't, talking about the Woolwich attack, it is very odd because it was designed to be as legit as possible. They tried very hard to get the conspiracy theorists to believe it was legit. And then you have all these scandals coming out, like MI5 was behind it, and then they arrested the friend, and you have people kind of like dying and stuff, and I can't tell because obviously the Hegelian dialect, the reaction to the Woolwich murders would be like, we need guns and we need to, because right now you're actually you're getting a lot of these British people and these these Islamic people, because for some reason they started mass importing Islamic peoples into European countries. And this was basically, obviously, a vilification scheme. They wanted to import these Muslims to drum up the idea that there was an Islamic conspiracy and that Islam was everywhere and it was trying to take over the world. And so what they may be doing is trying to reverse the damage that was basically done in that conspiracy by having some justification for deporting these Islamic peoples back to their land or something. So that's kind of why I'm like, I don't know if I should be like attacking it or something like that. But when I see these scandals coming out with like MI5's involvement and stuff like that, I don't know what's going on. And it's like, I can't tell if everything that's going on is the result of good people getting behind the wheel and then slowly taking down the conspiracy. But the problem is that you can't trust them. When I look at McCain's face, it looks like McCain is not necessarily happy. So I can't assume that McCain likes what's going on or whatever, but, it's just all very confusing. And the worst part is that if let's say you have like these new people kind of like doing these conspiracies, well, they basically run a risk of being caught, and then everything that they're trying to do that's good will go bad. And what's to say that they won't just become corrupt and be like, hey, we're at the controls now of a highly centralized network, and we're going to do whatever we please because now we're the top dogs. So I don't know. But all I know is that CIA is definitely behind Snowden. So everything that's going on with Snowden is going to be like pure CIA. And so if he's in Moscow, that does start making you think, like, okay, Putin has to be in on it too. Vladimir Putin. And I have always thought that the whole point of Russia Today and RT is to associate conspiracy theorists in the United States with treason or violating the Franklin Act or whatever it is, to make us look like we're just supporters of people who are non-American, So suddenly it's like, okay, you've got Russia Today covering the news with the 9/11 conspiracy, but nonetheless it's Russia Today. So you walk up to some random person that's coming out of church, and you're like, oh my God, did you hear that there was, an uprising, and it's all those crazy people that are listening to Russia Today? It's basically just bad PR, and I'm concerned about what they have in mind for us. I think it's weird. I think it's like they literally just create all of these open-end options that they could then do. But one thing that is very clear is that they are expecting Obama to be taken down. And they're doing it in such a way that they're slow leaking things out to the public to condition the public to be ready to take Obama down. Because there are so many people who are struggling right now that I think anything is welcomed. The question is, who are they going to put in office after that? It does look like it's going to be Rand Paul. And if Rand Paul gets into office, will you be able to trust him? I don't know. Because Rand Paul is saying very light stuff. Granted, he's trying to maintain face with the rest of the political party, which you don't really even have to do now, but he's saying we need to fire those IRS agents. That's like BS. You need to interrogate the shit out of those IRS agents and figure out what the hell is going on there. But the simple fact of the matter is that they're placating the conspiracy theorists that already exist, and then they're creating more conspiracy theorists. And the whole reason that they're doing this over the summer is that this is where everyone's together and they can get the parents to talk to their children, their students, the college students, and everything, about the crookedness of Barack Obama. And certainly, oh my God, I'm rambling. I don't know who the soldier was. I have a hard time believing some of these people are actually dead. Like, I don't know if Michael Hastings is actually dead. I don't even know if Christopher Stevens is actually dead. Christopher Stevens may be alive. He posed for those pictures. I know that sounds weird to suggest that, but if in fact Benghazi was an entirely controlled event, which I suspect actually, then Christopher Stevens may be alive, as well as those other people that were said to be dead. But I don't think that they're actually alive. I think they might be dead, and they're just using this event to blame their deaths on that event there. And what else? I don't know. We're full of lies. We're so far divorced from reality right now. And let's see, I have 9 more minutes before I log off. Well, let me just check the I agree, you can't reason with fear. Interesting. Psychiatrists who invented, this is pinned on GOP right now, psychiatrist who invented ADHD admits it was all a scam. If you or someone you know has a child who has been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, chances are the child is actually just fine. At least this is what the father of ADHD, Leon Eisenberg, would presumably say if he were still alive. On his deathbed, the psychiatrist and autism pioneer admitted that ADHD is essentially a fictitious disease, which means that millions of young children today are being needlessly prescribed severe mind-altering drugs that will set them up for a life of drug addiction and failure. ADHD is a fraud intended to justify starting children a life of drug addiction. I'm so scared to do absolutely anything now. I can't believe that. The whole point of it was to get children addicted to Ritalin and Adderall-like substances. The real Snowden mystery. Yeah, let's check that one out. Lunatic Outpost. The NSA knows everything, so how come they can't find Snowden or hack his computers? Quote, let's see, NSA is the most awesome spying agency ever. I know if you sit at a counter and drink a soda. They can't find Snowden in Hong Kong where he does a sit-down video interview with Glenn Greenwald. They can't find that safe house or that hotel where he's staying. It's from John Rappaport. That's right. And then you also have all of these like false flags occurring, or these terrorist attacks occurring. And you mean to tell me that you can't tell, for instance, the guy that shot John Clemens? You couldn't tell who shot John Clemens? You know, Colorado? When the NSA is listening to everything? I mean, like, just listen to what John Clements was saying on his phone prior to when he got shot, or listen to whatever that kid's name is. It's so bad. It's like, you have to wonder whether people on the inside even know what's going on. So you have all these teams of think tanks that are trying to, like, move things in a direction, but they really just can't. Very volatile situation. And I think everyone's kind of operating under the suspicion that the whole reason that they're willing to compromise is so to not have nuclear attacks occur. And then all of a sudden, if they do false flag nuclear attack something, they're going to get a lot of people on the inside kind of being like, oh my God, I'm totally freaking evil, and I need to rethink what I'm getting myself into. So there are 5 of our own nukes missing, huh? That's crazy. I know that they, like, switched out some of the people in Colorado who were responsible for launching nukes. So, I mean, I really do. I really have to worry and wonder, and just the fact that, Gordon Duff got approached by an ex-veteran who was offered millions of dollars and was warned that there would be a nuclear false flag, or had the suspicion that there would be a nuclear false flag. We're basically at risk for exactly that. At some point, a nuke might go off somewhere in this country and will warrant and for whatever reason, they could be like, it has to do with what Snowden did. We're running out of time, really, and people who have the means to do something about this really needs to just go ahead and do something about this.